Ever since Emmerdale stalwart Cain Dingle was diagnosed with cancer, he has been adamant on keeping it to himself, with only very few people knowing about it. Bottling things up has been causing Cain to lash out, with Sarah Sugden recently issuing him an ultimatum. Tell Moira, or she will. In scenes set to air next week, Cain finally finds the courage to be honest with his wife. In Monday's episode, Cain goes to visit Moira in prison and fills her in on his current health situation. He reveals that the cancer he previously told her not to worry about is actually much worse than she thought. Upon hearing the news, her entire world falls apart. This scene is set to be the couple's longest scene together, at 12.5 minutes, with Jeff Hordley, who plays Cain, previously saying he hopes the audience stick with this scene because it's a really important scene within this particular story. Elsewhere in the Dales, in Wednesday's episode, Graham Foster has a moment with his old flame, Rona Goskirk. He tells her he learned about Cain's cancer a while ago, and that he's been helping Cain out in his battle with Joe Tate out of respect. Rona thanks him on behalf of the family, telling him that the rest of the Dingle clan won't acknowledge what he's done. That's not all that happens between Graham and Rona next week, as they meet up and talk about what they once had, and whether there's a chance of them getting back together. Cain stood alone outside the prison gates, staring up at the grey concrete walls. The sky above was heavy with clouds, threatening rain. He shoved his hands deep into his jacket pockets, trying to steady himself. For weeks he had managed to keep his diagnosis secret. Only a handful of people knew the truth about his cancer, and even they didn't know how bad things had become. But someone had forced his hand. Earlier that week, Sarah Sugden had cornered him in the village. She had seen through his anger, through his attempts to pretend everything was fine. And she had given him an ultimatum. Tell Moira, or she would. At the time, Cain had snapped back at her, refusing to let anyone control him. But later that night, lying awake in the darkness, he realized she was right. Moira deserved to know, even if telling her might break them both. A prison visit that changes everything. Inside the visiting room, Moira Dingle sat at a small metal table. She had been trying to stay strong during her time behind bars, but the strain was beginning to show. The once fierce and confident farmer now carried a constant tension in her shoulders. When Cain walked through the door, her face lit up briefly, but the smile faded almost instantly. Something was wrong. She could see it in the way he moved. Cain Dingle rarely looked uncertain, yet today he seemed almost hesitant. Moira frowned. You all right? Cain sat down slowly. Yeah. She raised an eyebrow. Don't lie to me. Cain rubbed the back of his neck. The truth sat heavy in his chest, refusing to come out. Moira leaned forward. What's going on? He exhaled slowly. There's something I need to tell you. The lie that protected no one. Moira watched him carefully. Cain had always been terrible at talking about his feelings. Usually, when he tried, the conversation ended in an argument or silence. But today felt different. What is it? She asked gently. Cain stared down at the table. You remember when I told you I'd been to see Dr. Liam Kavanagh? Moira nodded. You said it was just a precaution. Cain swallowed. Yeah, about that. Her stomach tightened. What about it? He forced himself to meet her eyes. I wasn't telling the truth. Moira's expression hardened. What do you mean? Cain hesitated. Then he said the words he had been dreading. I've got cancer. The moment the world stops. For a moment, Moira didn't move. The words hung in the air between them. Cancer. Her mind refused to accept it. You're joking, she said quietly. Cain didn't respond. Moira's voice trembled. Tell me you're joking. I wish I was. Silence filled the visiting room. Moira felt like the floor had disappeared beneath her. How long have you known? A while. And you didn't tell me? Cain looked away. You had enough to deal with. Moira slammed her hand on the table. That's not your decision to make. A prison guard glanced over, but neither of them noticed. Moira's voice shook with anger and fear. You've been dealing with this alone? Cain shrugged. I've had help. From who? He hesitated. Graham. A secret ally. Moira blinked in surprise. You mean Graham Forster? Cain nodded. He found out a while back. And he didn't tell anyone? No. Moira leaned back in her chair, stunned. She had never expected Graham to show loyalty to Cain. Why would he help you? Cain gave a faint smile. Respect. Moira shook her head slowly. The entire situation felt surreal. But one thing mattered more than anything else. How bad is it? Cain hesitated. Then he answered quietly. Worse than I told you. A truth too painful to hear. Moira's breath caught in her throat. What does that mean? Cain struggled to find the right words. The doctors say it's aggressive. Her heart began to race. But they're treating it, right? Yeah. But… Cain didn't answer. Moira stared at him. Cain. He finally looked at her. They can't promise anything. Moira felt tears welling in her eyes. No. Cain nodded slowly. That's what Liam said. The room seemed to shrink around them. For the first time since they had met, Moira Dingle felt completely powerless. The fear beneath the anger. Moira wiped her eyes angrily. You idiot. Cain frowned. What? You absolute idiot. She pointed at him. You've been carrying this on your own while I've been stuck in here. Cain shrugged again. Didn't want to worry you. Moira shook her head in disbelief. That's not how marriage works. Cain remained silent. She leaned forward. You should have told me the moment you found out. I know. Do you? Cain's voice dropped. I didn't want to see that look on your face. Moira frowned. What look? The one you've got right now. The longest conversation of their lives. For the next 12 minutes, the couple talked more honestly than they had in years. They talked about fear. About the future. About their family. Moira asked endless questions about treatments and appointments. Cain answered each one as calmly as he could. At one point she reached across the table and grabbed his hand. You're not dying, she said firmly. Cain gave a tired smile. Bit optimistic, aren't you? No. Her grip tightened. You're too stubborn to die. A family that needs the truth. Eventually the conversation turned to the rest of the family. Moira frowned. Do the boys know? Cain shook his head. No. What about the Dingles? Not yet. Moira sighed. You have to tell them. Cain looked uncertain. They'll panic. Of course they will. That's exactly why I don't want to. Moira leaned closer. They deserve to know. Cain remained silent. She softened her tone. You've always protected them. He nodded. Now it's their turn to protect you.